What a skip fire the whole BBC bias fiasco is turning out to be. It's hard to know where to begin with this almighty mess that began last week but has kept burning. The rot really is setting in. I want to sidetrack from the Gary Lineker issue for this video and concentrate on this moment when Fiona Bruce defended domestic abuse by Boris Johnson's father, Stanley Johnson.
I'm not blaming Boris Johnson or Stanley Johnson, actually, Ken. He was a wife-beater, Stanley Johnson, on record.
OK, let me just intervene. I'm not disputing what you're saying, but just so everyone knows what this is referring to. So Stanley Johnson's wife spoke to a journalist, Tom Bauer, and she said that Stanley Johnson had broken her nose and she had ended up in hospital as a result. Stanley Johnson has not commented publicly on that. Friends of his have said it did happen, it was a one-off.
Yes, but it did happen.
That was sickening, but added to that vomit pie is the fact Boris Johnson is putting forward his own dad for a knighthood, which is just beyond belief. Sometimes we actually have to stop and think about what's going on in front of our eyes. This is the big pink Shrek monster pulling down his trousers, showing us his big bottom and saying kiss that to us because he thinks it's okay to get his wife-beating dad knighted. It's preposterous, totally preposterous. And we all know that this is wrong, and yet a lot of the time we just let it go by because we're powerless. But think about it, Sir Stanley Johnson, I mean, what has he done to deserve such an honour? As if Jimmy Savile hasn't soiled the institution of knighthoods enough. And it's a bit like the BBC. Because let's go back to Fiona Bruce here defending his actions.
She said that Stanley Johnson had broken her nose and she had ended up in hospital as a result.
It's on record. He broke her nose. Now that's pretty vicious and disgusting. And here we have Fiona Bruce playing it down.
And she said that Stanley Johnson had broken her nose and she had ended up in hospital as a result. Stanley Johnson has not commented publicly on that. Friends of his have said it did happen, it was a one-off.
Yes, but it did happen.
Now, she said she's appalled by what she said, but I think that you can see her reaction, how she just leapt in very quickly to defend him. And that's what she does pretty much every episode. Whenever you have a Labour politician making a point, she interrupts. So anyway, let's carry on looking at the BBC tomorrow and see what else we can dig up.
Friends of his have said it did happen, it was a one-off.
Yes, but it did happen.
If you want to protest Stanley Johnson being put forward for a knighthood, then there is a link in the description below for a petition created by the Independent paper. Click here to see Braverman getting her ass handed to her again on a plate.